Well, hello YouTube, how you doing? Some things in review lately. So, I've been mucking around with my new camera, which is the NX20, Samsung NX20, which is a nice little photography camera, to be honest. It's a combination camera, which does a pretty damn good job so far. Haven't any major issues with it. So what I ended up picking up for it is a few lenses, things that, I'll get it off, things of that nature. A little bag to carry it all in. Don't know whether I'd actually, well, you can put the camera in here if you really wanted to, but it's mostly for the lenses kits and things like that. And I've pretty much got everything else in there. So, anyway, this is what I've actually got in here. I've got this, which is for the bigger lens that I have. The current lens that I have on it is a 18 by 55mm lens, which is the one I'm using to record this video at the moment. This is for the bigger, obviously the bigger designed one, or the bigger one, which is different sort of design anyway, but I don't think you can actually see that, but you can't actually see that, that's not going to be out of focus, but that's alright, that's fun. Okay. Right. So, that's for the bigger lens, obviously. What I've actually got here in my kit, or in this kit, is full of the different lenses and things like that anyway. What I actually have in here is a bigger lens, which is a 200, I don't know whether you can actually see that, but the autofocus on this is a little dodgy, so I will just adjust it for a moment here. That is the 50 by 200mm lens, which is pretty cool. Take it back to auto. Okay, there we go, that's better. So, anyway, that's the 50 by 200mm lens. Clips in on the back, which has got all the settings and everything else in there. Has its own little container, or not container, but what do you call it, so packaging, leather pouch. On top of that, I've also got some advanced lenses as well, in case I want to add some extra stuff to it later, particularly if I'm doing certain types of shots. There's this it's a high definition lens, wide angle lenses. It's got a macro thing. It's got basically it screws onto the edge, or screws onto the end of the lens, or end of that 200mm lens. It can screw onto other lenses if you get them as well. So it screws onto the end of it, basically. That's what it's for. Then you've got this one, which pretty much exactly the same. Well, sort of similar. It's a telephoto lens, it says. It's a telephoto lens, which sort of, it's pretty nicely designed. It's not too bad. Screws off, screws onto the end of the lens that I've got. Now that's that, and then you've got some filters, which I'll show you those as well. I'll get this fucking lens back into its packet. Get in there. Alright, so a few filters as well. Myriad of different filters and things of that nature. I got a case with that, which was quite a plus side. Aside from getting the case, there we go. So that gets back in there. goes back in there. That goes back in there. And 200 by 50mm by 200mm lens goes back into the pouch as well, and including the top for it as well. And it all goes neatly back into here, which zips up pretty much. Oh. There we go. Which it zips up into this with this nice kit bag, which is cool. I got an extra memory card. It's only a 16GB, but still good enough to take me photos and maybe a little bit of video as well. 16 gig Sony. Oh, you can't actually see that, but it's a 16 gig Sony. Memory card, which is pretty good. It's an SD memory card. Pretty handy. Comes in very, very handy so far. I've not had any major issues with it. What else? Interesting bits and pieces, or things that I have managed to get my hands on. I'll be right back. Right, I'm back. Now, oh dear me, thermostat, which it's a thermostat for telling the temperature of items, maybe the temperature of your drink, and it says that it's 24 degrees on the surface of that anyway. Should be a bit colder, but actually, no, that's about right. That sounds about the right temperature for that. So, this is designed to pretty much read the temperature, give you thermal leak indications. Say you've got a certain part of the house that you think there might be a thermal leak in, or say you want to check the CPU temperature without actually, all you have to do is crack the side off the case, point this at the heatsink, and this gives you a pretty accurate temperature most of the time of what you want. Pretty accurate in the sense that it's not, doesn't feel crappy anyway, put it that way. So not too bad overall. It's a handy tool for any technician, anybody who does technical type stuff or does anything that's, you know, generally technically related or computer related. I've also got my hands on an EMF meter just to double check electromagnetic radiation levels just around me, things like that, stuff of that nature, which I've been doing on and off. This is not a bad little device. Very, very handy. Very, very good tool for doing tech stuff with. Aside from that, I ended up getting a new chair a few weeks ago. It is actually a chair that has a remote. I'll just check that it's plugged in. Yes, it is. It's a chair that's got a remote. It's a massage chair, which it's designed to, you know, massage your back, things of that nature. So I turned it on, set the intensity level that I wanted at, set the time parameter that I wanted at, and I can also set the mode as well. There's also a heat function that works in the seat itself. And considering I didn't pay that much for it to start with, considering the price was pretty reasonable, pretty happy. So you can also turn off functional parts of the chair too. You've got, you probably can't actually see what that says, but you can turn off functional and non-functional parts of the chair. You can turn off the neck, back, thigh, lumbar support, things like that. Turn all that stuff off. You can also just turn the chair off completely. Quite an impressive little chair, I must admit. And at the time, I was pretty happy with it when I got it. Had no major issues. Been working pretty well. I was pretty happy with this too. I'm also pretty happy with the lens that I've got so far. I've been taking a few further out shots and things of nature shots and things of that nature. Sorry, that pizza earlier. So, yeah, I went out and did some nature shots. Got a few nature shots of different perspectives. A couple of birds. I've got a power line itself, which I think I took a photo earlier with it, and I uploaded it. I'm pretty sure I uploaded most of it to Facebook and everything else and things of that nature. So yeah, it hasn't been too bad. It's been pretty good. I'm pretty happy so far with the result of the lens. It seems to be giving me pretty good rundown most of the time. Maybe the autofocus is a little dodgy. That's the only thing I find with the Samsung. The autofocus is a little annoying sometimes when you're trying to focus on certain things. I mean, I'm doing stuff in front of the camera right now. But saying that, it's more of a camera designed so you can fiddle around with it and you can have a bit of fun with it when you're doing photography type stuff, which I started doing some photography stuff and things like that. I started getting into it a bit because I love taking a decent photo and I love mucking around with doing decent photos. And it's always fun. It's always interesting to see what photos you can do and, you know, how well they come out and things of that nature. And it's a very good photography camera, so it's okay for video. I mean, it does 1080p, and it's okay for YouTube. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it as a camera that you're going to use for professional filmmaking, but it definitely works for YouTube, and it definitely works for the things that I do with it. Overall, the camera's response time in the sense of clicking photos straight away, you pretty much bang on most of the time with most photos. I have had a couple of dodgy photos, but you know, out of the 100 that you probably get at least 6, 7, 8, but probably more good shots at a time, especially with just continually clicking the lens till you get the perfect shot, really. Interesting, and also pretty cool at the same time. The camera itself, very lightweight. The lenses, wouldn't say they're lightweight, but they're pretty nice lenses. The lenses that I'm coming across, the two lenses that I've used, which is the default one that's on at the moment. I've got the default one, and I've got the other one which I use, which is the 200 to the 200mm one, which is more of a vacation type lens, really. But the camera body, generally the feel of the camera, it's very light. For the fact that it's such a very small light type of camera, it feels very solid in your hand. It doesn't feel crappy. It doesn't feel like it's plasticky, really. Most of the shots I've been taking come out pretty well, and I get some pretty good shots on most of the stuff that I do. So it's pretty cool, and it's pretty gnarly in my mind. Things that I've mucked around with. Well, I have to send an Asus headset back because basically the headset's fucked. Or part of the headset is fucked anyway. I only had it for 2 weeks, and basically the box that you connect it to the PC is screwed. Yeah, it's not working properly. So I have to send it back to Asus. I've called them, sent an email in to get my warranty back on it, and now I'm just waiting for them to respond, obviously, as quick as they possibly can. But I mean, it just depends on them, really, I guess. At the end of it, I haven't heard any responses in the last couple of days, so I've been checking my email pretty regularly, and I haven't got any response. Would be nice if they were a little bit faster. Although I'm pretty fast on the phone, but then when I started, the fact that they wanted me to email them and organise things that way, it slowed down a little bit. So anyway, did that. Fixed that up. Waiting on them to ultimately tell me that I've got to send it back and post it off to them, pretty much, which is the case. I'm getting some spare batteries for my camera as well. Be able to do shots, multiple shots and things like that. It's always good to have spare batteries. I have the one charger, but I mean, as long as I keep all the batteries relatively charged, and I have a few batteries there to charge, I'm good. I've been mucking around with my tablet a little more. Testing some selfie stuff. Camera ability. It's got a 5 megapixel camera. It's not the greatest camera in the world, but it's pretty good. It's reasonable. I also had a problem with my phone, which was related to the fact that all my music was on the main part of my phone memory, which I didn't realise at the time. This was something I didn't realise, and I hadn't actually looked in the phone memory to find out why this was the case. But anyway, I figured it out. So I looked and I went, oh, all my music, or a percentage of the music that I have has gone into the phone memory, and the phone memory is not very big. The phone memory is mostly just for apps, and I didn't bugger it. So I moved all the music over to the memory card, which is a 32 gig memory card on here, and now my apps are loading, and I have enough space to actually put the apps on there that I want. Because it was rather frustrating, because I was having problems where it wouldn't update, which pissed me off to no end, to be truthful. The phone itself, working beautifully. Everything got chucked at it, so I mean everything seems to be working pretty well so far. This is the HTC, I believe. It's the HTC Desire 610. Good phone, solid quad core, takes great photos. I can snap photos like a snapaholic, in the sense of just doing stuff, just doing stuff around, like just going around with, for example, I took a trip to London with my dad to help my auntie out to fix her computer. Took a shitload of photos while I was down the coast, in sequence of those different photos, and most of them have been uploaded to Facebook by now, but yeah, I took a shitload of photos, and it was wonderful. 2 seconds to upload it. Now the thing that was pissing me off was the fact that I have a tendency to forget to plug in my phone. Don't we all at some point? Don't we all have that issue where we forget to plug in our phone and it's not fully charged and the battery ends up dying? So I went online, I went onto eBay, looking around for a solar cell system. Well, I needed something. I needed some sort of solar. I was thinking about a solar panel thing that goes in the car and just basically hooks up and you can charge it any way you like. But what I got is a little solar battery pack. It charges by solar panel on the side of it. You take it with you anyway. Whack it in your bag or whatever. It charges the battery inside the actual unit itself, and then that charge can be taken from the battery and put into your iPhone, tablet, whatever the hell you want to put it into. As long as it's an iPhone or a tablet or mobile device of some type, you can charge pretty much anything of that nature. And it's quite cool. It's got smart surge protection, things like that, all that stuff built into it. And I was thinking that's pretty cool. Saves on electricity too. Saves on me having to charge a battery pack. Say I wanted to get a battery pack all the time. Saves me having to charge a battery pack all the time. Charging a battery pack all the time is a pain in the ass. I'd rather just stick it on the windowsill and let it charge itself. You know what I mean? But then I haven't got to worry about the power bill either. I thought, in my mind, it was a wise, smart investment, and it makes sense. So I got one of those. In my type of business, I don't know, you just need something there in case your mobile goes flat, because your mobile is a lot of your business stuff, like your texts, your messages, you know. It can also be a little mobile office as well, in some ways. If you're doing certain things on it, you know, whether it's banking, websites, you know, checking your email, regularly checking your email, checking your texts, getting phone calls, things like that. It can be pretty much a pretty obviously good business tool. So I thought, hell, it's cool. I'm going to go with that, and I went with that. It was pretty nice. So what did I end up doing? Well, aside from ending up getting this, which I thought this was pretty cool, I've been playing around with this instead of checking temperatures and different things. Almost also checking my air conditioner, see if it actually is giving the temperatures indicated. This, I saw Black & Decker ones of these listed for $79. Like the exact same sort of thing as this.
$79, and I looked and I went, no, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to pay $79 for such a simple tool, you know. Well, relatively simple anyway. So I thought, hell, let's go on eBay. So I go on eBay, $19.95 for this little device here. Comes with its own 9-volt battery, which is in here. It clips in the battery, just point it at whatever the hell you want to check the temperature of. You can even, I think you can also, I mean I haven't read the full instructions on it, but I'm pretty sure you can even set target temperatures if you want to. It can go in degrees or Fahrenheit, depending on your personal preference or settings. But yeah, no, fantastic. Fantastic piece of kit and definitely worth the time. Another thing I would recommend to anybody who is a technician or wants to become a technician, get yourself an automatic screwdriver. They're like a little cordless drill thing, but they're basically a cordless screwdriver. They're just like, you know, they're cordless automatic screwdriver. They automatically unscrew all your screws, take all the stuff out and everything else, and things of that nature. So, a wonderful tool to have, especially if you're in a hurry to get screws off something. It's not always the easiest. It's a lot faster sometimes to just use something, you know. And you can also get the different types of ones. You can get the ones with the high RPM, the low RPMs. I got one from Kogan.com, I believe, which was a relatively high. It was a little higher RPM than normal, but it does a great job. It gets everything out. It brings it all out, and I'm able to whack together and snap together a machine pretty quickly, which was fantastic. I was quite happy with the fact that I could do that. I did get one from Aldi a while back, but I found this Kogan one was really nice. It's got interchangeable heads, so you can change from different screw heads, depending on the situation, of course. But another thing I should also recommend if you're a technician too, get yourself screwdriver sets. Screwdriver sets are the best thing you can do for yourself. Voltage tester as well. Voltage tester is very important. There's also a little PCI device that plugs into the motherboard to see if the motherboard's registering or not. And basically it's designed to register what goes on there. You can run a BIOS test and things like that. I haven't got fully into it. I think I'll probably find a better version of it somewhere along the line, but it was something that was basically worked together in China that plugs into a PCI slot on your motherboard and pretty much tests and boots and does some post-tests and things like that to make sure that everything is working, basically. Fantastic piece of kit, that. I've only used it a few times, but as you slowly start to... when you're doing a technician's job, you slowly start to get to use the equipment, and then you find the benefits of having it. Screwdriver sets are definitely another thing. The other thing I was going to say also, if you're a person who wants to completely get rid of dust out of a system, definitely get yourself a mini air compressor. Well, I have a mini air compressor because, I mean, it's only really a small amount of computers that I would do, and I didn't feel the need to invest in a massive air compressor. I've got a little spray paint type air compressor, basically, to be able to blow the air, blow the dust and stuff and things out of my case and all the cases in the house, as well as being able to maybe, you know, charge a bit and clean out customers' computers and things like that. And, you know, charge a couple of bucks for sort of that, well, not a couple of bucks, but, you know, 50 or 40 bucks for a cleaning of the system or whatever, and just dust it out basically with the little airbrush thing. So definitely worth the investment as a piece of kit that you would use if you're a technician or a budding technician. Definitely get yourself an air compressor. It's the best piece of advice I can give you there. Mobile devices. Tablet. I haven't used my tablet so much, but saying that, I do use it from time to time. The other thing I would say, if you're going to get a tablet, it doesn't matter what tablet it is, always get a case for it. I never originally had a case. I used to find that my tablet used to get a lot of, you know, just not banged around, but just used to get thrown around, you know, a lot and things like that. It's good to have a case, especially a case with a magnetic top. This one here I got from, I think it was China. Yes, I got it from China. Is it China? Yes, I'm pretty sure it was from China. I got it from China. It's got a little lean-to stand on it. So, actually do it. say, well, the other thing I would recommend to people, okay, different investment in different business tools. These tablets are not too bad. They can relay stuff to databases and everything else and things of that nature, so they're not actually too bad. If you're going to get a tablet or a phone, get a memory card. Mainly because, not just the fact of storing photos for business purposes or verification purposes of taking a photo of something so you actually know you've done it or it's that particular way. You also have evidence to prove in case, you know, customers come back at you or somebody comes back at you because of it. So that's good to have a piece of kit like that. It's good to have probably about a 32 gig memory card, but I mean, higher is okay. Higher is definitely okay. I haven't invested in any higher memory cards. I've got a 16 gig in my tablet and I've got a 32 gig in my phone. Mainly because my phone's got a lot of my music and things like that on it. Aside from that, memory cards. If you're doing photos and you're doing YouTube and everything else, definitely get yourself a couple of memory cards. Never hurts. The memory card that I'm using at the moment, which is it's a 32 gig one on this camera at the moment, is not actually too bad. It's a pretty good memory card. I haven't had any major issues with it conking out on me. It is a no-name brand technically. I've got a 16 gig Sony as well as a backup. I mean, so, look, put it this way. In my mind, it's always good to have a backup memory card, your main memory card, then a backup memory card just in case something happens. You know, you want to do videos, you want to make photos or whatever. You know, it's a good idea to have these back. It's a good idea to have backup stuff. Another thing that helps too. If you're a person who avidly talks online and chats, definitely. I've had to chuck a couple of headsets out recently because they were broken beyond repair, unfortunately, and they were out of warranty. And I did not want to muster up the fact that the repairs would just be tedious and frustrating for me. So I just thought, no, fuck it, I'm going to actually invest in a couple of new headsets. So I got a Razer headset, which really sort of only really works for the Xbox 360, but it also works for the PC as well. It works for both. I picked up an Asus headset initially, and it's having an issue at the moment, which I'm going to get them to take it back on the warranty. That's not the issue anyway. They're going to take it back on the warranty. I'll get obviously a new one, and they'll send me the new one. I'll keep that new one. Maybe I'll keep it in the box or something like that. Or maybe I'll use it just as a mobile headset or something. But the other headset, I ended up going down to EB Games. I didn't buy this online. I ended up going down to EB Games because it was just... I wanted a headset quickly, basically, that, you know, it was going to work the way I expected it to, things like that. So I got this, which... let's hang on. Okay, so I got this, which is the Z60. You can actually see that. I'll probably have to adjust the auto focus on that again, but... The Z60 Turtle Beach. Yep, I got myself a Turtle Beach, and I have had Turtle Beaches in the past, and I've never had any major issues with my Turtle Beaches. I think what happened is I gave my last Turtle Beach to my nephew, and it ended up getting broken somehow. And, you know, that shit happens, basically. It's a factor of life. You can't really do much about it. So, there's not really much I can do about the fact... There's not really much I can do about the fact that the headset got broken. The last one did anyway. But it wasn't even actually for the PC. It was for the... for the Xbox 360. So yeah, basically it ended up breaking. So, the one I'm using at the moment is particularly designed for the PC. It's also designed to work with a mobile device as well. That's a plus side, if you don't know, but you unplug this part, which leads into the surround sound adapter, and this plugs into a mobile device, which is one single cord which plugs into a mobile device. So that's pretty cool, pretty handy. And in fact, it's got its own sound card sort of stuff, and it sounds pretty damn good. It does sound pretty nice. My girlfriend also sounds pretty good on it too. Not a bad headset by any margin. And 7.1 surround sound. Now, the other spectrum of it, there's that headset, which, you know, or I don't know, I like to have at least a couple of backup headsets. I also have a single, well, I typically have two 360 headsets now. I have a Razer headset and I have another Turtle Beach, which is basically a single chat line headset, which is just one ear cup and one microphone. I did have a wireless headset set for the Xbox 360, but unfortunately it broke. Just age, plastic, cheap plastic, age, factors that I used it a lot, and yeah, combination of that stuff. So yeah, it broke anyway, that's fine. So what I ended up doing is just basically getting, most of my headsets I think now are just going to be wired. I used to sort of muck around with a wireless. Maybe I'll get a wireless later. It's just the price at the time, but the wireless headsets was a bit ridiculous, so I thought I'd wait until maybe they came down in price, or there was a special or something. So, I mean, different bits of kit and things that I've used over the years, definitely things I would recommend. If you're gonna like get ADOF hard drives, erase hard drives, format hard drives, virus scan hard drives even, get yourself a hard drive dock. Hard drive dock is a wise investment, very wise. Hard drive docks are great for just getting data off, generally copying things from place to place, and if you want to, put new hard drives in your computer, you're doing upgrades and things like that, definitely get one of those. Best investment you can make, hard drive dock. Or even a cloning dock, which I've got. I got a cloning dock as well as a hard drive dock. The other thing I would make an investment in is a memory card reader, but a decent one. I've tried the USB 2.0 ones, the older ones. Not the no-name brand ones, as I like to call them. I've tried a couple of those, and they were just dodgy. The one that I picked up a while back, which was a Kingston, and it was a USB 3.0, is so freaking reliable in the sense of how you just slip your memory card in and away you go, and you're pretty much copying in 2 seconds flat. It's USB 3.0, which I like, which is really fast. That's just from personal experience anyway. I just definitely recommend to get that type of thing if you're going to go for that type of stuff anyway. Best investment you can make. So the other spectrum is this too. If you're going to build a machine, I don't have a problem paying like $49 or some small amount for a power supply. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a cheaper power supply. But the cheaper power supplies don't tend to last as long. Well, they don't tend to last as long. That's from personal experience. Maybe some of them have got a little better in the way that they work. My auntie's computer, because I was only really sort of just charging her for parts and things. The power supply she got was a little cheaper than what I would normally buy. We'll put it this way. It didn't look like a bad power supply, and it worked pretty well, and it had some pretty good overheads. So, it wasn't too bad. I was pretty happy with it. And it was a brand new power supply. I think the previous power supply she had was reconditioned. Being a brand new power supply was $49 a 500 watt. Wasn't too bad, but for anybody who's really, they weren't doing intensive gaming, they weren't doing intensive stuff like that, and they weren't trying to push the envelope on what computer specs they could get. But if you're going to go for a bare minimum on a good build, or for a build, definitely I would say, because this is one that I ended up buying for the kitchen computer, which is my workbench computer. It's just a personal preference. I mean, it comes down to the individual, I guess, if you really choose to get a cheaper power supply or not. But I put a 650 watt Corsair Value power supply in. which is about 99 bucks, a little less maybe, depending on where you go, 99, 70, depending on where you go. But Corsairs, always all the, even my old Corsair power supply, my old Corsair power supply, which was 650 watt, and this one was 650 watt too. They last for donkeys. I mean, I'll be honest, most of the Corsair ones I've had have lasted me for donkeys, and they're still running strong, you know. Same goes for Silverstone. I had a Silverstone 1000 watt for a while, and then I ended up buying another Silverstone 1200 or 300, well, it's 1200 watt output, and then it maxed up to 1300 watt output. My power supply now is a Silverstone, so definitely Silverstone. Any brand name, when it comes to brand name computer components, I would recommend totally, because most of the time you find you get some pretty good brand names. I mean, you know, you get some crappy ones too. And then you get the up and coming ones, which are brands that are trying to prove that they're good, which is the newer ones. A lot of those brands, I don't have a problem testing them regardless, but most of the time I stick with the brands that I know if I really want to build something nice. Corsair, definitely the top of my list. If you want a power supply, definitely. Silverstone, if you want a power supply, yeah, definitely the company. Gigabyte, which, okay, my previous card, which is now in my nephew's computer, my previous card was Gigabyte 670. My two cards now are Gigabyte 670s in SLI, and I don't know, as I said, I've stuck with the brands that I basically know are reliable and do work and don't crack themselves and don't have issues. Now, at the end of it, you stick with those brands and you're most likely to get yourself something pretty reliable. Not going to shit itself after a week or, you know, month or whatever. You'll probably find you can run it continuously and you're not going to have major issues. I know for a fact that my Silverstone power supply, I used to run it all the time. Because I'm sort of an avid gamer and keeping my system on going most of the time doing things, yeah. So, yeah. Certain brands that I trust. Well, it's funny you should say that. I trust my tablet's an Acer. I've seen Acer. I have had a couple of Acer desktops in the past. I've sold reconditioned ones, and they always tend to end up coming out on top. The Acer reconditioned desktops. They end up coming pretty well, and they don't tend to clunk out, and they tend to show their age pretty well. So Acer, definitely the Acer tablets are a plus on there. Acer screens. Well, recently I have a 4K screen, which is a Samsung. Pretty much my screens used to be Samsung up until the point that I switched over to one Acer screen on one side of my computer setup, because the smaller Acer screen that I have, which is a 19-inch, it's a 16,000 by 900 resolution, and I wanted it basically so it doesn't. Basically, it would. I'm not pushing as much resolution, because my last monitor that I had was 1080p. I needed something a bit lower resolution so it wouldn't, because I'm pushing 4K here, and the two 770s would sometimes, you know, I get that bit of frame rate lag. So I figured lowering the resolution on my second monitor and making it a little bit smaller was a good idea, in my opinion, to give me a boost in frame rate and just make things run a bit more smoothly, which is logical in my mind. So I ended up buying, I think I bought it for about 90 bucks. No, probably less. Maybe something like that. I don't know, roughly about that. It might have been 80 bucks. I think it might have been 80 bucks because I had like a few dollars on a voucher or something for JB Hi-Fi. So no, I got it from JB Hi-Fi anyway. It's not a bad little monitor. Gives a pretty good colour. Everything looks pretty good on it. My 4K monitor, which is a Samsung, the only annoying things I've found with the Samsung so far, and I think it's because I'm running a 2-monitor configuration with 4K, is the fact that occasionally I've noticed sometimes when I'm doing certain things, the monitor will time out. It's almost like it times out, and I have to actually take the physically unplug the power and plug it back in. And I did notice a couple of people reporting some of the same issues with the monitor. Just it's almost like it's almost like it's almost like it freezes or gets not lag or it's almost like it gets a software freeze or a blue screen of death sort of thing. Just basically switches the monitor. Just basically doesn't like the fact that I've got two monitors hooked up to everything else, and it's pissed about it basically. So at the end of it, I can't do much about it. Well, I mean, I can do a little bit about it, but I can't really do much about it. It just occasionally it happens, and it doesn't happen all the time, just from time to time. But I noticed if I just run it as a single display 4K, surprisingly it runs pretty well on its own. On its own, it's fine. It's when you combine it with another monitor, sort of thing, that it gets a little antsy about it. Saying that, I've recently been running a lot of my games, different games on 4K, and testing the 4K resolution, getting everything just right. And I'm running some pretty good frame rates now. I'm actually getting pretty good frame rates on most of the games I want. Yeah, most of my frame rates are pretty smooth and even. I ended up getting a 9590 processor, clocked at 5 gigahertz, or if you go turbo, it's clocked at 5 gigahertz. And so far, no big issues. I've been using a Neptune 2 80-litre water cooler, which, to be honest, is quite a nice product. No big teething issues with it. It cools quite well. It cools better than my old one. My old one, which was a Antec. What was my old one? My old one was an Antec Crucible 220. It was one of those ones with the rudimentary fans built into the radiator. It's supposed to be a double radiator. But I mean, to be honest, this one that I've got, the Cooler Master, doing a much better job than my last water cooling unit. My last water cooling unit pissed me off, basically, because it was almost like it wasn't doing as efficient a job as I thought it was. Saying that this is a bigger unit, I think my other water cooling unit was a bit smaller. So maybe it was the fact that I just wasn't using the right size water cooling unit for my CPU, because it was getting a little more hot than it should have. But saying that, I've come to some conclusions since then. The thing I want to do is maybe get another case upgrade later on. I'm not on a major rush to do it, but maybe at some point I will see if I can get a case upgrade at some point. I don't know. It'll depend on my mood and available funds, things of that nature. So what I've ended up doing is, mucking around with my system basically. Things I've recently upgraded. I recently I've ended up recently upgrading to a 500 gigabytes Samsung SSD. So 500 gigabyte SSD, which doing a great job so far. I haven't had any major issues with it. I've switched at least a few of my drives. I think some of my drives used to be green drives, and now I've actually switched over most of them to the normal reading levels. I ended up getting a 4 terabyte drive. I got one of mine is a Western Digital Black 2 terabyte, My other one is a SSHD, which is a Seagate. So that's 2 terabyte. That's my games drive, or my games are on. The other 2 drives that I've got are 3 terabyte each. So yeah, I've got like 2, yeah, I got at least two 3 terabyte drives, two 2 terabyte drives, and one 4 terabyte, and then the 500 gigabytes SSHD. Not SSH, SSD, Samsung. So that's pretty much, you know, a combination. So that's what I got now. Then I got 2 Blu-ray drives. One's a burner. No, actually both. Sorry, one. No, both are burners. Both are DVD burners, and both are the one's a Blu-ray burner. And then my processor itself. Processor. Well, I would it's a 9590, which is the AMD FX 9590 8-core processor. Clocked 4.72 gigahertz. I've maxed out my board, my motherboard, which is a Sabertooth gaming board, version 2.0, I believe, if I remember correctly. I was thinking of upgrading that at some point, but I don't know. It's a pretty good board. It's a pretty solid board, so I haven't had any problems with the board. So, you know, I'm just going to leave it for the time being. 2 770s, SLI, 32 gigabyte of RAM, which I pretty much maxed it out because I do a lot of multitasking and I needed as much memory as I could possibly get. And I mean, yes, I have almost managed sometimes to use up that amount of RAM in some ways, especially with the amount of tasks and things that I do on the computer. Oh, well, my Logitech speakers, which are THX certified, 2.1 speakers, nice speakers by the way, they're not too bad. I used to have a Razer controller for my Xbox. I actually still have a Razer controller around here somewhere, I'd have to find it. There's a Razer controller for my Xbox anyway. I've still got the original one, which was a tournament edition. It worked fine. But the Sabertooth one, the most newest model that they had out, had a big fucking issue with being able to actually work. No, sorry. The thumbsticks died. That's right. The thumbsticks died. That's right. The thumbsticks died on it, and it was terrible. But I got this other tournament controller, which is this one, which is I believe it's called It's called Power A, which is actually it's a very wide controller, very large thumb pads. You know, like thumbsticks. Now, so far, I've not had the buttons die or anything like that, or any issues with the buttons. Everything else works. I always get good throughput on it. Never any lag with the controller itself. It works fine. And it's got a braided controller. It's got a braided cable like your Razer has. But yeah, I've never had any major issues with it. I've got a Logitech G502. So, a Logitech G502 Prometheus. Good mouse, by the way. Wonderful mouse. I've never had any majors. There was some firmware issues initially when it was released, and that was just because it was to do with 4K. I think it was some to do with 4K monitors a little bit, but also to do with the fact that it would lag in certain aspects, and you know, it had a couple of memory issues. But the firmware is slowly getting updated on it anyway, and any issues are being fixed with it. But I haven't had any major issues shooting or targeting with it, and it's been pretty good with the DPI. Otherwise, the DPI's been feeling pretty steady most of the time. The keyboard I have is nothing fancy. It's what, 90 bucks? probably less, maybe 80 or 70 bucks. Mainly use, the device that I mainly use for capturing the Xbox is Elgato. There's a couple of different Elgatos out now, which I wouldn't mind. I'd be interested to see what those Elgatos are like. But I love the software interface on the Elgato. On top of that, you can do streaming with Elgato if you choose to. What else? Power boards. If you're gonna run a business or even have a gaming rig for that matter, run it on a decent power board. All the power boards I have in the house, pretty much every power board that I have is either a high end of the spectrum of the Belkin power board or a low end of the spectrum of the Belkin power board. Basically, I've got the basic surge protected power boards, then I've got the fancy ones, which are like the 8 outlet ones, which have much more circuitry protection and things like that. Underneath my bed, I have I've got an 8-port one underneath my bed, which is designed for my air conditioner. And it runs my air conditioner, it runs my foot massager, a few other things around my room. Yeah, basically it just runs this side of the room pretty much. Then on this side of the room I've got an 8-pin connector, 8-pin power connector. Sorry, it's a Belkin one anyway. It's a Belkin audio-visual one basically. It's pretty cool anyway, regardless it's Belkin. So that plugs into my computer, my monitors, my tower, my fridge, my fan, everything electrical on this side of the room basically. My phone, my cordless phone, my tablet power supply because I don't charge my tablet for the computer. Yeah, pretty much. It's a fair amount plugged into it, and it's pretty stable most of the time, unless there's a power issue in the actual neighbourhood. Also plugged in my Xbox 360 as well. That's protected from that. Same with my modem, which I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if I'm having an issue with my modem or not. I have another modem, which is a the current modem I have is well, the modem I switched back to was a ASUS DSL N55U, which is a nice modem, don't get me wrong, but it has a few little issues here and there, like just rebooting, things like that, you know, stability, just general stability issues, which they've tried to fix in firmware updates, but they haven't fixed all the bugs in it, basically. It's still got a few bugs there. So, I mean, it's pretty solid most of the time. It gives you a pretty solid connection in most cases. But I switched over to a TP-Link. Now, the TP-Link had a newer standard of wireless too. The ASUS only has wireless N, which my TP-Link's not... I mean, look, don't get me wrong, my TP-Link's not bad. I got a bit annoyed with the fact that it seemed to act a certain way sometimes, and I don't know. Look, generally my line is a problem line. I know this because I've tried several different modems over the years, and I can never seem to get the right balance, regardless of the modem I pick. It's almost like I have to get a few extra spare modems just to see what balance I can get with the different modems if it's changing at different times. Now the irony of that is, though, I've never really actually got a proper balanced connection like you would expect. Now that's just the fact that my internet connection is a pole and it's a piece of shit to start with, and it has issues. I know this. I've come to accept it. But it still doesn't mean it doesn't annoy the fuck out of me, and it doesn't annoy me for the fact that, you know, I can't upload YouTube videos when I want to, and, you know, things of that nature. It's very difficult to upload at times, especially YouTube videos. Rancid pain in the ass, really. So, look, as I said, just personal experience. Anyway, I don't know, just some of the stuff that I've come across. I mean, also I have Belkin surge protected boards on my workbench to be able to protect me against any problems and things of that nature. I also ended up getting this cheap light. Well, he got it as a sort of gift from someone. And he said, "Oh, I can't use it for anything. Would I like it?" I said, "Sure." So I put it on my workbench. I'm going to use it as a work light to be able to put over the top of machines to see straight in on top of what's going on with the machine. Basically, it's like a really, really bright lamp that sits above things. So it'd be great for that, being able to look at machines and look inside machines, and having that extra light there would be perfect. So I figured, bugger it, perfect tool, perfect thing. So I think I'll leave it there, YouTube, for the moment. Basically, at the moment, I've got a few new bits and pieces. I've just been trying to wrap my head around a few things for myself and trying to get things just right. Just where I need them to be, basically. Anyway, like, subscribe, follow me on YouTube, follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, when I can get it to work. And yeah, okay. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much, YouTube. Please stay tuned. I hope you enjoy the videos. I'm always happy to oblige. I'm always happy to help with issues or problems if people have any problems. I do like the fact that somebody made a comment on about something, which it was a derogatory comment on me. He pretty much turned me around and accused my method of breaking his laptop when ultimately it wasn't really my fault that his laptop broke. It was more his, because if he wasn't confident in the first place of handling the ability to put it back together, or the ability to take it apart in the first place, I wouldn't have even attempted it myself if you didn't feel confident enough to do it, or if you didn't have the confidence. At the end of it, you should have taken it to somebody who knew what they were doing, instead of turning around on the internet and being a dickhead and making a comment like, "Your fucked up method broke the case of my laptop." It was an old G5. No, G5. It was an old G4 PowerBook that I was working on a long time ago. I think I ended up scrapping it because I just didn't want to invest the time or the money on the parts at the time. I didn't feel like investing back into the parts to fix it up again, But the sad truth of the situation is that, if something like, okay, you can't really blame somebody if they're giving you a tutorial. Like, I wasn't even really giving a tutorial. I was just showing people what the machine looked like, or what the guts of the machine look like, and just a rough guide of how to take it apart. On top of that, you have to be careful when you're taking things apart, people. It's not as easy. Some of this stuff is not as easy as it looks. And on top of that, you've got to be careful when you're taking things apart, because it's very easy to break things. Technology is not foolproof in the sense of how you... Okay, it's not foolproof, but it's not always as durable as you think it is in the first place. So, you've got to be careful. That's the key point. Careful decisions. On top of that, just consideration at the end of it. Now, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much, YouTube. Stay tuned, and I hope you all enjoyed my videos, which so far most people haven't really given any comments towards whether they enjoyed them or not, but I think most people do. I think most people get something out of my videos. They learn a little bit about technology. They perhaps, they learn a little bit about gaming or otherwise, things of that nature. So, anyway, thank you very much, YouTube. Catch ya. Bye.